More slope today. More slope today, but slope using an equation. Don't be scared. I've got an exact procedure how to do this. Don't be scared. Slope using an equation. Using an equation. Turn off my touchscreen there. Slope can also be solved without graphing. Huge advantages to not graphing it. It's faster. It's faster. And can handle any numbers, even big numbers or decimals. Given any 2 points, point 1, okay, this is complicated. First, I'm going to say there's a first point that's got an x and a y, and a second point that's got an x and a y. But you're like, that one has xy, this one has xy. How do I tell the difference? We label them. If you look on your page, do you notice it's got x with a little 1 down there? That means the first x value. That's all. That little 1 is just telling you the first one you see. And this one, you put a little 1 beside it to go the first y value. So that's all those little 1s mean is the first x and y. And so this one's x2 and y2. Did yours say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you got 2 points like that, instead of having to graph them, draw the line, draw the triangle, count the side, count the other side. There's a formula. It looks like this. You got it on your page? M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If your brain explodes when you see that, that's okay. That's why you paid me to come here today, to explain what these things mean. The m, this is what you got to add to yours. This is why you got the formula. Please add this to yours. A little fun arrow there pointing at the m, right there, and the m stands for slope. Why would m be used for slope? Who in their right mind would have chosen m for slope? Who's good at French? A little bit. In French, to go up or to rise, the verb is monter. Monter, am I saying it right? Monter, M-O-N-T-E-R. We found out yesterday that the guy who made the first book on this was French. So to him, M was the perfect letter. It meant to go up. That's why it's called M. That's weird. Here, I want you to add something here. The top of this formula just calculates rise. Instead of having to draw it, graph it, a line between them, draw the triangle, and count the squares, y2 minus y1 will calculate the rise for you. That is simple. You just subtract the two y values. And here, down here is the run. This is a formula for rise and run. Simple. Some of you like this better. Some of you are like, can I do yesterday's homework just using this, please? Because it's like wham, 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 fast. This means there's an x and y from the first point and an x and y in the second point. A little highlighting here. If you don't have a highlighter, that's okay. Maybe you'll just underline it and reduce the fractions to the lowest terms. Is that the most key thing in all this? Well, no, but it's going to make our life a lot easier if we do reduce that fractions. Notice how the equation is still rise and run. Yes? That's most of the lesson. We now have a formula to do this work. How do I use it? I need a little more on how to use it, Mr. Todd. Okay, so we're going to do a few examples and then loads of time to knock down the homework, because I know some of you want to redeem yourself after a week homework day. Here's the steps. This is the part you really want to copy down. This is the part you don't want to put away when I'm done teaching. This is the part you move up to the corner of your desk and go, I'll do it just like Mr. Todd did. Very slowly. This is the part where I go very slowly. Label the parts. So this is x, but it's the first x. So what number do you want to put with the x?
1.
That's going to be x1. This is the first y, so I put y.
2.
No, first y. So what number for y? 1. Over here, this is the second x I see, 2. And this one's the second y I see, 2. I think that's the hardest part. Weirdly, I think that's the hardest part. I'm going to keep doing the steps, but yeah, from here on in, I'm just plugging in. I got to know the formula. Actually, that would be a great question. After doing today's homework and coming back tomorrow, and I check it and I go, great job, now you can be rewarded for everyone getting their homework done, someone's going to raise their hand and go, did we get the formula on the quiz, on the test? Do I have to memorize it? That's a good question. I'm not answering it yet. You need this formula to do it this way. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This calculates rise and run for us. It does all the work for us. It graphs it. It counts the squares. It does everything. So my question is, the formula says y2. What is y2?
On the right.
I'm pointing right at it.
Oh, wait. Yeah,
10. I just fill that in. Subtract. Now look right at my labeling. What's y1? 2. Look right at my labeling. What's x2? And what's x1? 4. Hold on. If you think this is real easy, it is. The only thing that can cause trouble is negatives. Negatives can mess you up here. So you got to play with it enough. You got to do enough homework where you're like, oh, I've seen all the negatives. I can handle it. Okay? What's 10 minus 2? 8. What's 8 minus 4? 4. I'll draw a line saying I'm essentially done at that point. I've got the rise, I've got the run, but you should reduce it. If you're really bad at reducing, call me over and I'll show you how to get your calculator to help you. Calculator can help with this, the reducing. Can you reduce it, Gwen? She says it's just 2. Sometimes it reduces so good it's not even a fraction anymore. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Done with slope. The slope is 2. Do you have any questions about that? Mr. Todd, a good lesson would cover some of the negatives. You did all positives there to make it look easy, and that's true. I did the first one with all positives to make it look easy. Now we better do something that's got some negatives involved, and by then you'll want to run and get a calculator and make sure you can get these answers with the negatives. We'll do that in just a second. Do you need more time on this one? Hey, if you're running out of attention span, I know some of you already are, I've got to do 1, 2, 3 of these. That's all we're doing together today. 1, 2, 3. I know some of you like short lessons. We're time to work. That's what we're going to do. Find the slope between these two. We'll do this one together, but I'm going to ask for help. How do I label these? What label does this get? Ava. X1. What label does this one get? Emma. Y1. Some of you might think, oh, do I really have to label them? The answer is yes. It makes it so easy. Please label them like this. How about this one?
Y2.
Hold on. That's the y2, because that's the y value. The second one's the y value. So what's this one?
X2.
X2. Then you need to know the formula. By the end of the day, sorry, I guess I said tomorrow. By tomorrow, you should ask me, Mr. Todd, do we have to memorize the formula? I love the formula. I'm happy with the formula. In fact, here, do this to this formula. You're going to love this. Then fill it in. What's the y2? Negative 2. What's the y1? 6. What's the x2? 3. And what's the x1? 1. Notice the subtract between. Now here's the big question. Maybe you're great at negatives. Wonderful. If you're not, you're going to lean on your calculator a little bit here and type this in so that you get some help there. Can anyone do negative 2 minus 6 without the calculator?
Just flip it around, make it add, so that
She's got a method, folks. She knows that I'm just putting negatives together here. So it's a lot more negative. Good method. How about 3 minus 1? That one's easier, 2. And again, some people, negatives aren't their thing. That's where you go to your calculator. But let's talk about what it would be. If I had -8 and I divide that in half, what do I got now? -4. Okay, so again, challenge yourself to try to do them. Well, let's lean on the calculator to get answers now. Let's make sure we're getting some help to make sure the negatives isn't the part that's messing us up here. You have questions there? All right, let me try and release a little bit. Example 3, let's see how far you can get in example 3 on your own. Try to label example 3 and write down the formula. Don't do it yet. There's a problem with this one that I want to warn you about. If you're really not sure, I'm going to do it very slowly. You can look up and see what I'm doing. But try it. Try and label the points. Get that done and get the formula written down. See if you can get that far. If you're already done and you're zipping right through this, you can flip the sheet over and start the homework ones because there's A to N in the back. Good. Do it. Do it. You try and label it. Don't look up until you've made your effort to try to label it. And then you can look at my labels and see how you did. Then I asked you to write down the formula. See if you've already got it memorized. See if you see my game. By using it, are you automatically memorizing it? Maybe you are.
Some people mix up like the first one game.
Yeah. Well, this is why we practice.
So like with the y1, y2. Some people, because it's, you do y2 minus y1 instead of y1 minus y2.
Yeah, it's easy to get it backwards, isn't it? Take another moment and then look at mine because this one's a little bit messy. It's got a little problem to it if you're not careful. Hi there. What was it? Oh, is it there? You got it? It's good? Did you get this? Did you get the subtract a negative?
No.
Yeah, that's a little bit difficult. It's easy to just write subtract. But because the x1 was negative, it's subtract a negative. Watch out for that when you're doing these, okay? Because the negatives can cause you problems. Now, the numerator's not bad. 9 minus 3 is 6. But 6 minus -2, this might be too many negatives for you. You might be like, ah. So that's when you use your calculator. Maybe not. Maybe 6 minus -2 is no problem for you. What is 6 minus -2? 6, subtract a -2. Instead of going down to, Leah? It's 8, yeah. And again, this course really isn't about knowing all that stuff perfectly well. We can get help from our calculator. We want to talk about slope. We don't want the negatives to get in our way. But if you're good at the negatives, I encourage you to keep challenging yourself and not go to a calculator every time. Well, here's the first tough reducing that we got. That says 6/8. And now I'm not too happy with my writing there, so I'm just going to fix it up a little bit here. 6/8. I'm going to draw a line there. That's a good answer, but we want to reduce that fraction. How do we reduce 6/8? What number divides into both 6 and into 8?
Divide by 2.
Divide them both by 2, and then what do you end up with?
3/4.
3/4. That's going to make our life easier. You might think, well, that's not any different really. Is that better? It is better to have lower numbers. Okay, little secret here. If reducing fractions has always been a problem for you, and you have trouble seeing the numbers, here comes some help, okay? Here comes some help. I don't want you to do this all the time, but when the numbers are big, or your brain's not quite working right, or you want to make sure you're right, if you look at your calculator, oops, Is the calculator not working today? Oh, it's thinking about it. It's thinking about it. Now it's going to come up like 3 times. Watch, I'll get 3 different calculators here.
You have 2 already.
It was 6 over 8. Yes? I'm going to put in 6, but I'm not going to hit divide. I'm going to hit the fraction button. The fraction button looks like this. A/B, or maybe it looks like AB/C. It's got some A's and B's and C's on it. If I put 6 over 8 in there, it'll reduce it down to 3 over 4 for me. Okay?
Mine doesn't do that.
It might look a little different on yours, but it'll essentially do the same thing. Okay? Okay. Any questions? We got one more to do. One more to do. Together. Again, I challenge you. Try right now. Try to label it. Try to write down the formula. Fill it in. See how far you can get. I'll give you a couple minutes. Before I release you for homework time, let's see how we do. If you're really not sure, you can peek at mine. I'm going to do a few of the steps up here so you can take a look. Or you can check it as you go. You're like, no, I'm feeling great about it, but I'll just double check to see if Mr. Todd's doing the same thing as me. I've done up to filling it into the formula, so you can check to see how you did. If you made a little error with a negative, that's okay. That's why we're practicing them. You try it. It's very mysterious. Would you like more time? More time? No, no more time. If you didn't catch this subtract a negative, remember that when you go to do yours. If it's a negative, it's subtract a negative. So that means 10 minus negative 5 is 15. The bottom's negative 6. This is a tough reduce. Is there a number that divides into both 15 and into 6? If you don't know, that's okay. If you don't know, that's okay. I'll bring up one of my calculators here. Your calculator knows, though. 15, hit the ABC button. They both divide by 3. Good. So divide them both by 3, and you get 5 over negative 2. You can leave the negative in the bottom. I think you'll find it easier, so I'll put it right beside here, if you put the negative up in the top instead. That's usually easier, but it's not wrong to leave it the other way. It's just a little easier to put in the top.
When you do the fraction button with that one, it comes up with 7 and 1 over 2.
So hit,
Because I did
yep.
15 fraction negative 6.
Yep.
7
So
1.
then all I want you to do is hit second function, that, and it'll switch over to the right version.
Oh.
So that's a little conversion button too. It thinks you want mixed, but you don't. You want improper, and so that'll switch it over for you.
Okay.
Good stuff, right? That's why it's so important to use the same calculator all the time, so you know on your calculator what you have to do to get it to work. All done.